research, and today we're going to be talking about the introduction to the Treialon Cymru stakeholder programme. Just a few bits of housekeeping. We are recording this session because there was people who couldn't come and wanted to hear what we'd said afterwards. So I hope that's okay with everybody. Certainly all the speakers are happy with that. But just let us know, certainly if we get into questions and answers at the end and there's anything you'd like us to take out afterwards, then please let us know. But we are recording it and then it'll be available on our website. So thank you for that. The other couple of things I want to say again while people are just still joining is that there will be a feedback survey from this session, and there's a lot of developments going on, so feedback is really welcome. So please do think about completing that. I'll remind you again at the end, but Richard will be putting the link in the chat so that you can have a go at that whenever you want or towards the end. So the process for today is I'm going to give a little bit of an overview of what Treialon Cymru is, and I hope that that goes well. I've had the odd person who's been reported to be saying to us, "What is this? I don't even know how to say it." So it is Treialon Cymru, and I'll come back to that in a minute. So I'm going to give a bit of an overview, and then I'm going to hand over to other members of the team to give you a bit more detail, particularly about the Associate Members Programme, which is launching and is opening today. Given that tomorrow is International Clinical Trials Day, so that felt like a good way to mark what we wanted to do. So we're going to talk things through. If there is any major problems, then pop it in the chat as we go through. But then we should have plenty of time for questions and answers as well. So you can either pop them in the chat or put your hand up when we get to that, and I'll coordinate that. So if we start off with, can I have next slide, please, Reese? So if we start off with just a quick, what are trials? So I've stolen Dave's slides and he's animated them. I never animate my own slides. So anything that's snazzy is definitely Dave's. So if we start off with just kind of going, what are trials, since that's what Treialon means. Essentially, we're looking at experimental studies. We've got interventions to evaluate. Those interventions could be any sort of intervention, from a drug through to a service, through to a training program, a talking therapy, any of those sorts of things. And what we're focused on here is trying to increase and improve our engagement with trials as a Welsh research community, and also to increase the options, therefore, we give to patients to get involved in trials. And there are lots and lots of interesting complexities in trials. COVID has driven the awareness in the general public of the importance of trials, but possibly not the complexity of doing them. And so there's lots of challenges for us as we go forward to think about how we drive that forward. Next slide, please, Reese. So I want to briefly introduce what a trials unit is. So we have clinical trials units that are registered, and that means they're essentially accredited by an organisation called UK Clinical Research Collaboration, and this means that they're recognised to have the quality standards to an international level to be able to deliver multi-centre trials and comply with all the regulations and etc., as well as being real centres of expertise. Now we actually have I think there's more animation on this, Reese. And within a CTU, you'll find all of these different sorts of disciplines who specialise in all the aspects that reflect that complexity of trials that I said on the previous slide. Next slide, Reese. Then we've actually got 3 UKCRC registered CTUs in Wales. That's the one that I run, which is the Centre for Trials Research, which is based in Cardiff, but we also have the North Wales Organisation for Randomised Trials in Health, which is based up at Bangor University, and we also have the Swansea Trials Unit based at Swansea. We have some slightly different specialisms. We all work together as much as possible, and whilst we are leading on delivering on Treialon Cymru, hopefully, as you'll see through, there are real opportunities for us to engage with and link together all 3 units in Wales to deliver better for Wales. Next slide, please. So, what is Treialon Cymru? we've been provided with some funding by HCRW for an initial 2-year period to have the infrastructure for a trials unit, which is what allows us to maintain a large unit that complies with those UK CRC standards, but also to have a number of additional elements which reflect the new All Wales remit that we're trying to develop and that connectivity across Wales. Those 3 elements, which are the ones you'll hear about today, are a research development programme, which is looking to increase the number of large studies we lead from Wales, an associate membership programme, which is the actual launch of today, which is about engaging with the CTUs, and Rhys will tell us more about that in a moment, and then a stakeholder engagement programme to try and raise awareness and make sure that we're meeting the needs of people across Wales. And so that's essentially what I hope that you will come away from this session and go to your lunch with a better understanding of what each of those is, and can understand a little bit about how you can engage with it, but also how it might benefit you in thinking about your research. Next slide, please. So just a quick commentary on pronunciation. So we did a consultation about this process, and there was lots of comments on whether or not we should stick with a Welsh name or whether we should change it and just make it Trials Wales. You'll see that on our logo we're using Treialon Cymru and Trials. Could people mute, please? We decided that we would stick with Treialon, not least because I quite like it. But here is a simple approach to trying to remember how to pronounce it. It is not hard. It is essentially a try. If we're Welsh, we know what tries are. Maybe the pub landlord is less Welsh, and indeed his programme touring the areas of the UK exploring what they are was very fascinated. But Al, the pub landlord, is exactly what we say in the middle. So it's try Al. And then simply we turn everything on and we enable Wales. So that is why it is Treialon. So I hope that helps as a little aide memoir to help you remember how to pronounce it. Don't worry about spelling it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand over to Rhys to introduce the actual associate programme, which is the thing that's launching today.
Thanks, Gary. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Rhys Denton. I'm a research manager at the Centre for Trials Research. And I'm here today in my capacity as the operational lead for the Associates Membership Programme launch, or the Associate Membership Programme that we are launching today, as Kerry's always mentioned, ahead of International Clinical Trials Day tomorrow. So what is the Associate Membership Programme? So as Kerry's kind of touched on a little bit, this is one strand of Treialon Cymru that is really reaching out to anybody in the research and delivery community in Wales, in health and social care. The goal of the Associate Membership Programme is really to help us try and build research capacity by creating links between CTR and that wider community, and also facilitating links between the different areas of the community through the cohorts that will be of associates that we'll be bringing through. The offer from CTR to associates really is personalized mentoring and professional development over a 6 month to 3 year period. And our hopes from this is that associates will return to their areas of work and act as advocates and champions for the goals of Treialon Cymru, and not just Treialon Cymru, but the work of the trials units across Wales in their organisations and in their working areas. So a little bit more about what we're hoping the Associate Membership Programme will provide. If you're a successful applicant to the programme, you will be allocated an individual mentor that closely aligns to the area that you're applying to look at more closely. They will work with you to develop a personal development plan that you will then try and address over your time with us. You'll have access to an associates cohort, so we're bringing in 2 cohorts per year as part of this, and you'll have access to the other people in your cohort to link across Wales and across different areas of the health and social care community. We'll also invite you to be part of CTR staff meetings, divisional meetings, and give you opportunities to shadow projects or shadow areas of interest across the CTR, And as you work through your personal development plan with your mentor, you may also need to go and explore some other things that you didn't actually put in your application as you start learning a little bit more about what we do. And that's what our associate coordinators are going to be there to help with, really, is to facilitate those blind spots that you had at the start that you now want to investigate more. In exchange, we are going to set some expectations of our associates. We want to make sure that there's a minimum level of commitment that allows you to really engage with the program and make the most of it, and deliver on the development plan that we're going to build with you. And we set that minimum at half a day per month. We think that'll give you the opportunity to have that regular check-in with your mentor, see how you're getting on with your plan, and also engage with some of the other activities that we're hoping to deliver for associates, or other activities that take your interest across the centre as you're invited to various different things. As I've already mentioned, the term length is 6 months to 3 years. If you are on a shorter time scale and you think an extension may be useful, we can have a look at that with you. And if it gets towards the end of the 3 years, then we'll look at what other options there are to retain that link if you feel that that's helpful. It's a professional development program that does require your line manager or organizational support. So we'll be looking for you to provide evidence of that support through a letter of support if you're successful in applying. We'll ask you to keep an activity log to facilitate discussions with your mentor, so that you can see that you're ticking along, and that they got the opportunity to identify areas where maybe you need a bit of extra help or a bit of signposting or something to that effect, just so we can see your journey and you can look back on it and see your journey through your development plan. And finally, once you've finished the program and you've ended your time with the cohort, we're just going to ask for some feedback. Our first cohort is going in October. We know we're learning as we go, and as Kerry said, all feedback is really, really welcome at this point. We want to make sure that this is a really good program for the future cohorts as well. So although we'll invite you at the end, if you've got something as you go along on the journey, then myself or Sue would be really welcome to hear that feedback as well. I'm not going to go too much into this slide because it's quite text heavy, but essentially we have put together some exemplars of things that we think we might see as applications to the program. These I think are available on our website, but essentially we're using them as an example to say we would welcome anybody on any point in their research journey if we think that we could help them achieve their research goals. You could be right at the start of your journey and you've actually got very little understanding of a clinical trials unit and how it sits within a health and care research context. And we could put a lot of support around you, inviting you to various different meetings that will give you the structures or an understanding of the structures and the context in which we work. It might be somebody who's a bit more experienced and is kind of a little bit further along their research journey and just needs a specific bit of support that will help you through to, say, approaching your next funding opportunity or developing the next strand of your research. That we would welcome an application from somebody like that. And finally, even somebody who's quite experienced in research, we would welcome applications from you if there was a specific area that you feel like you really need a bit of a good bit of time into and access to our expertise in that area. So for example, if you needed a bit of support with public involvement engagement, we could connect you with our hub. If you were working on inclusivity in your research, we could connect you with the teams that we got who are really, really good at that. And that's just a few examples of things that we could facilitate. So if that sounds like you, and I hope there's some people on this call that it does sound like, because we are trying to make this as broad as possible and we do want to hear as many people as possible, you can use this QR code to get to the application form. It's a fairly short application form. It's not 17 pages. You'll be very, very glad to hear. It'll probably take you about 10-20 minutes, and it's open now. The deadline for the first cohort is on the 1st of July. You can use the form now to also apply for April 2024, the April 2024 cohort as well, if that's going to work better for you or your organization in terms of fully engaging with the program. We will then take all the applications early in July and assess them for feasibility. So when we're assessing them for feasibility, really we're looking at whether we've got the expertise to be able to deliver on the area that you are looking at. You know, we do quite a lot of things, but we don't do everything. So we need to factor that in. We'll look at capacity. So if we get a lot of applications in a specific area that's quite a small team, we may look for you to be part of a later cohort so that we can try and sort of even out the capacity, the load on that team over time. And finally, we do have a cap on cohort size. We want to make sure that we've got the time to be able to deliver a really good experience to you, but equally, we don't want the opportunity for you to network within your cohort be too diluted, which might happen if you had too large a cohort. So we're trying to keep them at a reasonable size. And again, if you're on slightly the wrong side of that within one round, we'll offer you a later round. If you're offered a place, we'll send you an outline acceptance with the name of your mentor. So you'll be able to connect with your mentor in advance of joining the program formally and start building that relationship quite early on. And in exchange, we'd ask for that letter of support that I've already mentioned to say that your organisation agrees that you can engage with us. If we can't offer you a place, we are offering feedback on all unsuccessful applications. Where possible, as part of that feedback, we will try and signpost you to somewhere else. So I said about expertise. If we don't have that, but we know somewhere else that does, particularly in Wales, we will try and make that link. And Kerry's already mentioned us connecting to the other CTUs. But we also want it to, this to be kind of the open door policy of the centre. If it's appropriate, we'll keep that link, because what we do changes and what you do changes, and there may be an opportunity for us to work together in the future, even if it's not quite within the Associates Membership Programme. Okay, so you'll be glad to hear that that's the end of me. If you've got any questions or queries, feel free to contact me and Sue. Sue's our academic lead for this strand of work, and as I said, I'm the operational lead. If you're not sure you're the right fit, or you think maybe is this project the right thing for me, then get in touch with us and we can provide you that reassurance, or signpost you earlier if that's going to be appropriate. The link for the scheme is here, and I think Richard's going to post it in the chat. And again, you can use this QR code to get to the form. So that's me. I don't know. Am I handing back to you, Kerry?
Excellent, thank you. Yes, I'll pick up there momentarily. So mull and cogitate on any questions you might have for Rhys on that, and we're going to quickly whiz through a little bit of a description of what we're doing in the other two programmes of work in Treialon Cymru, just so you can see the bigger picture of where this associate membership programme fits, and also see whether there might be other opportunities for you to engage. So I'm going to hand over to Eleanor, who is the operational lead for the research development programme, to talk a little bit about that next.
Thanks, Kerry. Yeah, so hi, my name's Eleanor Coleman, and I'm a research fellow in the Centre for Trials Research. And as Kerry said, I'm working with Kerry as the operational lead for the research development programme for Treialon Cymru. Okay, so what is the research development programme? Well, we currently have less major trials from Wales than from elsewhere in the UK. And so we're hoping to make use of the skills of the many researchers and healthcare and social care professionals who are interested in research across Wales, so that we can change that. So the remit of the research development programme is to identify areas of research importance for Wales, so that we can select these key areas in order to develop trials led from Wales. And as you can see from the slide, our planned deliverables are to submit 2 large-scale trials in areas of high priority for Wales per year. Okay, next slide, please, Ruth. Thank you. Okay, so providing oversight and guidance on this piece of work for Treialon Cymru, we'll have a research development management group. So the group comprises of representatives of trial methodology, speciality leads, research delivery, and from the Wales Evidence Centre. So as you can see, all the individuals listed here, and they've all agreed to be a member of the group. So we're really grateful to have such expertise and experience providing oversight for this piece of work. The group hasn't actually met yet, so we're having our first meeting in June, which we're looking forward to, but we will meet twice a year throughout the programme. You'll also see that we've got to be confirmed for members of the public. So Rhys, if you can press down, it should, hot off the press, is an advert from Healthcare Research Wales, which has gone out today. And so we're hoping that by the first meeting, we'll have 2 members of the public on board as well for the Research Development Management Group. So if you know anyone who might be interested, tell them to get in touch with us or to have a look at the advert. That would be great. Okay, Rhys, next slide. Thank you. Okay, so how exactly are we going to get to the point where we submit 2 applications for large-scale trials per year? So just to summarise, we're firstly going to identify research priorities for Wales, and then we're going to identify funding opportunities. So once we've matched the research question with a funding opportunity, we will then identify a principal investigator from Wales and select co-applicants who will form a research development group. And that research development group will then go on to develop a funding application. So that's a really brief overview. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail now. So next slide, please, Rhys. Okay. So firstly, identification of research priorities for Wales. So basically, we're conducting a scoping exercise to identify research priorities. We'll be drawing together information from numerous sources. However, we're well aware that there are other groups and organisations who are already identifying and pulling together research priorities in Wales. So we've reached out to these organisations and groups so that we're not replicating work that's already been done. Okay, so our initial sources have included Welsh Government published frameworks and strategies. So there are many, and some examples include the Research Matters Plan for Health and Care Research in Wales, the NHS Wales Planning Framework, the Social Care Research and Development Strategy for Wales, Healthier Wales, and that's just to begin with. There are also Welsh Government action plans and policy statements, which we'll be looking at to identify research priorities. So these can include the Healthcare Research Wales HIV Action Plan. There's also a Learning Disability Action Plan that's in draft and a Women's Health Policy Statement. So we'll be looking through these documents to identify research priorities. We're also very grateful to the Wales Evidence Centre, which is led by Professor Adrian Edwards, and aims to develop robust health and social care research evidence on a range of topics. So the team have put an awful lot of work into carrying out an initial research priority scoping exercise. And so Natalie and Alison and the team have very kindly shared the results of this scoping exercise with us. And so we will feed those results into our work also. We're also gathering information from other sources, including the Healthcare Research Wales Prioritisation Group and the Cardiff University Public Affairs team. And then finally, we'll cross-reference the research priorities that we identify with research priorities identified by the James Lind Alliance. Okay, so next slide, please, Rhys. Okay. So once we've done this, we're going to match the research priorities to potential funding opportunities, and we will be scoping opportunities with the larger funders like NIHR or UKRI, and we'll identify calls that allow us sufficient time to develop our applications. We will then identify potential leads in Wales who may be keen to move the proposals forward. And the Research Development Management Group, which I described earlier, will provide oversight for our processes when matching the research priorities to funding applications. But they'll also provide their knowledge of the health and social care landscape across Wales to identify potential leads from Wales. So the final stage, but really it's when all the hard work will begin, will be when we, with our Research Development Management Group, then select proposals to take forward for funding applications. And the selection criteria will be based on the importance for Wales, the potential for Wales to provide leadership, and whether the proposals have the potential to develop a large-scale trial. Okay. And for the selected proposals, we would then work with a lead from Wales to put together a team or a research development group of researchers with the key skills to develop the funding application and deliver the research. So to finish off, I put a bit of a recruitment slide here. So if you're interested in being a potential principal investigator, please do let us know. It would be fantastic to have a list of potential leads who are keen to either continue their research or they may be a first-time principal investigator, but all ready to go for when we're selecting our research development groups. Okay, next slide, please, Ruth. Thank you. And then, yeah, I've just finished with mine and Kerry's contact details. So if anyone has got any questions or is interested in being a PI, please feel free to contact either Kerry or myself.
Excellent. Thank you, Eleanor. So again, scribble down questions if you've got them. We've just got a few more bits to talk about, and then we'll move on to a Q&A session. So the third component of our Treialon Cymru initiative is the stakeholder engagement element, and we have both the academic lead and the operational lead here. And I think it's Richard as the operational lead who's going to talk to the slides. So so handing over to you, Richard.
Thank you, Kerry. Thank you, everyone who's made time to come along here today. This will be brief so that we've got plenty of opportunity for you at the end to speak to us, ask any questions, and obviously you're very welcome to contact any members of the team afterwards. Okay. You'll see at the top here, top left, we've got Treialon Cymru, a new Twitter account that's been created that we've just launched this week, really. As well as the logo, and I know Kerry will say a little bit more about that later on, but please do follow us on there because we'll have the opportunity then to be able to engage with you directly. So like Kerry says, I'm myself and Dave Gillespie, we're working on the stakeholder engagement side of Treialon Cymru. I do the communications for the Centre for Trials Research Clinical Trials Unit based at Cardiff University. Okay. Our stakeholder engagement programme is exactly as it sounds. It's to ensure that our work is meeting the needs of as many people as we can in Wales, particularly with an emphasis on diversity, including all the different areas of Wales. Now, I've actually put in the chat a link to our feedback forms. It's going to be really, really helpful, particularly since this is our first one, with any thoughts. Although we've had stakeholder consultations, as Kerry mentioned, prior to this, it will be super helpful if you could just take a moment to let us know any of your ideas, any things we could be looking at, anything you want to see in these webinars. Okay, so that really it's the most diverse, most inclusive that we can muster given the size of the team, the funding that's available. It's worth mentioning a key for us really is working in partnership, and that's why we're really keen to just keep getting as much input as we can. We're working with Health and Care Research Wales faculty, including Professor Monica Boos, very closely. We've already had an in-person event in Swansea, and we will be sharing details soon of our in-person event in North Wales. Okay, so that's with the North Wales Organisation for Randomised Trials. Okay, so that's with NWorth. We'll be announcing the details in June for the autumn event. That'll be in person. It'll be great to sort of promote that and get as many people as possible there. And if you have any thoughts on that as well, or what you'd like to see in that, then again, you've got a good opportunity in the feedback forms today to let us know. That's probably the easiest way to actually make sure that any of the good ideas, good thoughts you've got get included and get considered by our management group. Next slide, please, Reese. Okay, and this just gives an idea of what we have got planned up to July. There'll also be a schedule going out, as I say, from autumn onwards. And we will be running a mixture of these online and also in person. Okay, so we've already had the NIR HGA panel event, which is in person. We've had or we've had, oh, sorry, we've already had a couple of in-person ones as well as that webinar. We're doing this one today. We've also got Dr. Philip Polman, who's going to be talking about efficient clinical trials with adaptive designs and master protocols. And we have got an inclusivity in trials webinar arranged, which will also be run by Teams, which you can book on through Eventbrite. Okay, so we've got a wide range of researchers that are going to be talking about inclusivity in trials. Very, very important, really key to the work that we're doing here and making sure that we do reach as many audiences as we can. And you know, probably the most useful thing that we could ask today, just in terms of being able to help you, is to just to fill out the feedback form. But you can contact any of us afterwards. I'll put email addresses in the chat as well. So if you do want to speak to any of the members who are presenting today, you've got that there and you can contact them directly. I'll also put in the links that are on here. I know you can see them on the screen here, the registration links, but what I'll do is I'll copy and I'll pop them in the chat as well, so you've got them to hand. We're around at the end to answer any questions. But again, that's really all from me. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for being here today, and I'll hand it back to you, Karen.
Thank you, Richard. Very, very, very useful to see that. So I did want to just come back to make a couple of points before we throw open to questions, but have a think about whether you want to put your hand up or start typing in the chat. I wanted to mention that we had a little competition within our staff for designing our logo, and I need to mention that Jo Uden was successful at that. We actually had lots of entries, so thank you to Jo. She is here, so for coming up with that design. It's really nice, and it hopefully reflects the connectivity we're trying to achieve across Wales, and it's much appreciated to have such a nice design. You might have noticed in our stakeholder programme that we have a couple of things. We're doing a number of things in partnership with the Health and Care Research Wales faculty. This is quite intentional. I'm assuming that we'll have most of our questions will relate to the Associate Members Programme. It's worth noting it's a continuing professional development programme, so it doesn't include funding for your time. That's why you've got to have the commitment from your organisation that it's part of your development. However, there's a hope and an intent that it might lead to some of the funded time opportunities that are available through the faculty. So we're trying to work closely with the faculty to make sure that we streamline across and flag those opportunities to people. So that was just a key thing I wanted to note, and we'll continue to work with the faculty as it develops and it develops its schemes over the future. So that's all in terms of what we formally wanted to present. Can I see whether people have particular questions? Should we stop sharing and then I can see? Is that silence? So whilst you're still thinking about your questions, I'm going to ask Dave to mention what some of the ideas he's got for up and coming webinars that might be are being currently thought about.
Yeah, no problem. So so yesterday I had a conversation with someone in Swansea. So we're planning to do a joint webinar with HDR UK, which will be about using routine data for randomized trials. So the pitch that I was given for what so Sinead Brophy, who said that she could bring some people together to talk about, sounded very exciting. So it sounded exciting to me, and I work in trials, so I think being able to maximize the use of routine data and to use experimental designs to evaluate interventions, I think is a really good combination. I think that'll be really excellent. So that should be in July. We've got other ones coming up, which will be about trials in neurodevelopmental disorders. So that's another one that we've arranged. I can't remember what any of the other ones were, but definitely those two.
I think you'd said something about surgical trials design as well.
Possibly the third one.
So
yeah.
starting to tap into the different areas of interest across Wales, but also to make sure that we build on Welsh strengths. So so we do have some real pockets of excellence, and connecting them together, and also sharing them with everybody, I think, and so that we can both celebrate them and be aware of them for our future research is a really, really important thing for us to do in Wales. So I still can't see any questions in the chat, and I've not got any hands up, but Laura's put her camera on, so maybe I'll ask Laura if she's got a question.
Yeah, I'm happy to ask a question. Thanks, Kerry. I was just wondering about the research prioritisation work, which I think is I'm really excited to see how much that can tap into and generate new connections around Wales. One of the things that I was just wondering about, though, in terms of the structure that you're proposing, I think I've written this down correctly, that there'd be some sort of like scoping of what priorities, then scoping of funding opportunities, and then scoping of potential PI selection. How are you going to sort of factor in that there'll be some areas where they're already doing a lot of work, and not kind of reinventing the wheel with this process? So it is part of the research prioritization going to look at what research activity is already happening and perhaps tapping into areas where there isn't much, or where there could be new PIs coming through?
So yeah, so I think a key point that we've got in our more detailed documents is also making sure we link with the other Health and Care Research Wales centres and units. So it might well be that what we do is we identify an area, and rather than us drive it forward, say to them, this is a priority and this is coming up. Are you aware of that?
Yeah. Okay.
So very, very definitely, I think that's what we'd be aiming to do, and part of that is to have that discussion. So the people we've invited to be part of our overarching group is very deliberately so that they can link us into broader networks as well, to help have a bit. It's, for all the fact Wales is small, there's actually an awful lot of brilliant activity going on.
Yeah.
And trying to create a way in which you can know everything that's going on, and I'm sure you have the same challenge in Health and Care Research Wales. So we're trying to treat it a bit organically, but I think it'll be lots of conversations both with our overarching group and then the centres and units about some of those areas. And it might well be that if we take as an example the liver disease and liver research Cymru bid, which has just been won by Aneurin Bevan, actually the centre that's got most involved in that is Prime, in terms of, but actually it is, yes, some of the questions around liver research for Wales are about early diagnosis and prevention, which would very much sit in primary care, but some are still secondary care questions. So it's kind of, it involves them, but required some other setting up for the leadership isn't from Prime. So it's that kind of creating those connections so you can address a problem of major clinical importance for Wales, building on all the bits we've got and maybe a little bit new. So that sounds very woolly and hand wavy.
No, I think it's helpful to hear that. That it's about. It's going to be a large undertaking, but in some ways it might be also about coordinating or supporting the coordination of research, as opposed to
there's absolutely
sort of leading it all yourself.
No, there's absolutely no desire to double count or to duplicate other people's work. And also I think particularly you might have noticed that a real core of our research development management group is all 3 CTUs and health economics Cymru, and that really is key. Because I think it might well be that it's not CTR. So Treialon Cymru is intended to be all Wales and linked to the strong methodological basis, and I think that's something we just need to work through as we start doing it, I think.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. Did I see any other questions? If no one puts their hands up, I'm going to ask it. So is anyone actually thinking that they might like to apply, or to get someone else that they know to apply for the associate programme? I'm getting silence. Laura.
I don't want to hog the questions, but I did have another question if no one else is going straight away. With your research associate programme, you mentioned kind of three sort of potential categories of associate sort of levels of perhaps current involvement in research, trying to sort of address that this could apply to anyone who wants a personal development opportunity. Do you get at this stage any sense as to what the balance across those kind of, you know, are you, obviously you're hoping to get a range, but yeah. Do you have a sense of the potential balance? And you also didn't mention about the, or if you did, apologies, the decision-making process of how you're going to decide who to accept.
So the first part of that was that one of the reasons for us putting those kind of exemplars together was one of the things that came from our original consultation was a little bit of a concern that the people who would engage with it were the people who already kind of knew what a CTU was about. So it would only be that latter category of actually probably more experienced researchers, because there would be plenty of groups who wouldn't know that it would be a good thing to do. So we talked quite a lot in the consultation, and we've been talking quite a lot within the group about how we bring this to the fore for groups who might be going, well, I wouldn't even know, what is this thing? What could it do for me? And that's been part of, so there's a summary exemplars, but there's some more detail on our website. And it's really about people being able to go, yes, that would be right for me. The second question about decision making. So we've got a small group who's making the decisions, but really they will be the points that Rhys mentioned. Those are our primary concern. We are, however, also keen to make sure that we get a good spread across Wales, and different professional groupings and all of those sorts of things. So, and health and social care. So they're not quite criteria, but I think for each cohort, we'll be trying to create quite mixed cohorts. And that's as far as we've got in terms of actually planning that little bit so far, was just an awareness of it. So Kate, you've put your hand up. I noticed Donna had put her hand up and then put it down again. So I'm just going to check whether that's because I'd answered her question.
Hi.
Hiya.
Hello. I am in health. I'm a counsellor and I run a counselling business, and I'm just wondering whether that sat within the remit. Really, I'm in private practice as well. So, as we find in private practice, research is quite hard to do. One for funding, one, is
Yeah.
Even though we've got access to quite a lot of counsellors in the private practice world. So I'm at the start of the journey. So I'm just wondering where really that sat within the criteria.
So I think that, we quite deliberately, there's absolutely no limitations on this or expectation that you're employed in a certain way, or if this is very deliberately open to people who think that they and what they do could benefit from doing it. So we would welcome an application from a very, very, very diverse group in relation to that. So yes, entirely, that would fit.
It's good to hear. Yeah, that was my biggest question, I will be honest. So
brilliant.
Thank you.
So thanks, Kate, and then I'll come back to the questions that are in the chat.
Okay, Carrie, I don't know if mine's really a question, really. I mean, I'm probably already benefited from linking with the CTR, so I'm already sold that this is a good idea, but I can see how it would really benefit other members of staff that are researching within the School of Healthcare Sciences, and like really trying to address that gap between developmental research, which is developing interventions and services and things. So, but it's getting those people connecting with you. So I just don't know whether, is there going to be more events where you're willing to come out to individual groups or organizations or schools to talk more about the scheme, to sort of maybe people can really see how it could benefit them?
Yeah, absolutely. We'd be happy to come and have conversations. But part of also the reason of us recording today is so that people can see some of the conversations we've had. And I also think, and it probably relates a bit to Donna's and Laura's point as well, once we start getting some cohorts through and we can say, well, this is the sort of person we've had, that helps to generate that momentum as well. So absolutely, definitely, we'd be happy to come and share things. So I've got a couple of questions in the chat. Kerry, did you want to ask your one, or did you want me to just answer it?
I've got builders in the kitchen and it gets really noisy intermittently.
Okay.
So I'm just putting my mic off, and can you just answer it?
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay. So I'm answering all the questions at the moment. Reese, did you want to answer some? So this one is about whether or not it's suitable for an early career researcher who's just considering going for a first into research.
Yeah, I think it kind of echoes the point that you were bringing up to Donna's question. Really, of it's a deliberately broad scheme that we're trying to launch, because I think the exemplars that were there is kind of to start the discussion, but it's going to be much broader than the examples that we've given, and in some ways we won't know what we're able to support until we get it through. So we've got in mind the criteria of what we're able to support, but I think that we've also got a lot of expertise as a centre developing, people from quite early in their careers all the way up, and it's just trying to broaden that out to the rest of Wales, really. And if they, if the person you've got in mind has got is applying in an area that's kind of a methodological or scientific fit for us, then I think, yeah, it would probably be an appropriate link for us to make. I'd suggest they put the application, and then we'll be able to take the conversation from there.
Yeah, the one thing I would add, actually, just whilst Reese was talking, was we're not just talking about people who want to call themselves researchers. And I know I've had some conversations about whether or not, for example, some staff in an R&D department might be interested in coming and shadowing the way in which we look at pharmacovigilance or quality assurance for trials, particularly if they've got less experience, some of those sorts of things. So it is intentionally quite broad. So, Steve, you've also got a question about an information pack for managers. Did you want to? Shall I throw that to Reese as well?
Yes, please, if you would.
Steve, I was just going to start this off by saying that's a cracking set of screens you got there. I very much approve. I think so we have some level of information that is kind of, I think at the moment, more shaped towards associates. I think that's probably a really good idea about the potential benefits. It's kind of like with the exemplars, it's been hard for us to put a finger on what exactly we could pitch as the offering to different areas, because we don't know yet what we're going to get through. But I could certainly take that back to Sue, and we can try and come up with something and add that to the website.
Yes, please. Speaking as a lecturer myself, we have to fight tooth and nail to get research time. So to be part of a CPD course, I'm really going to have to persuade my manager to see, well, it might be a good idea for me.
I think that's also why we kind of kept the minimum expectation at quite a low level. We've got ambitions that people who can get more time can do quite a lot with us, but also if there are people who that's going to be a bit of a harder sell, then they can still be part of what we're doing. We can still develop something with them with quite a small amount of time that will, as Kerry said, kind of build on to maybe future funded research time applications.
Thank you.
Excellent, thanks. So we've got Grace has been offering she's going to let us have some details, so I don't think that was a question. And then Gerda, did you want to raise your point?
Yeah, hello. As you can see from the screen, I did radiotherapy and oncology at Cardiff University, and we had to do a research project. And it would have been really good to have some information about how to do the research and so on from you. Not only how to do it, but some of us actually did really integrated research and might have gone forward with it had we known about this. That there might be funding there.
So I think that's a good point about us making sure we link up with our various teaching colleagues in terms of making awareness. I mean, it is a number of us do teach on various postgraduate talk and programs, and we do actually have a separate program of offering research projects based in the centre. That's a little bit of a different framework, I think, to the associate program, but the fact that students might, when they go back out to their jobs, be interested in connecting back, I think is a really good point. So thank you for that. That's really helpful. So Any further questions? No. So it just goes for me to say thank you to everyone, all of my team for talking. Thank you for all coming. And I hope that this means we'll have lots of exciting things to do in the future. Gerda, you've managed to put your hand up again.
Yeah, I'm really sorry.
That's right, no, it's not a
mic was
problem.
switched off. I just wondered, because I did research myself in radiotherapy.
Yeah.
I did, so I just wondered, I work now for R&D for CTU at Willendre, and but I'm not full-time. So would I actually get support from you, or do you have to be in full-time?
So it doesn't matter what your level of employment is.
Okay,
It's
because there was something similar going out and you had to be in full-time employment.
No,
Okay.
no, so you don't have to. So so the key though is it's supported by your line manager for within whatever time you've got funded, employed. Yeah.
Ah, that's good to know. Sorry,
yeah.
because I had to go to a stand because it's official research day tomorrow. So I just came back from a stand this morning, so I missed a little bit. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. No, that's really good. Well, we're hopefully that's clear, and that we can, because I think we do want to, maybe we want to make that really clear, Reese, on our application, that there's no limitations on things like that. So brilliant. So I'm gonna
thank you very much. It was really
Thank
interesting.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
So I'm gonna close us off there and see if everyone can have a safe journey to their kettle and their lunch from wherever they are. Thank you all for coming. Yes, diolch yn fawr iawn. And I look forward to engaging with you all over the next few years on this exciting programme. Thank you.